Good afternoon. Richard Winthrop, Oxfordshire County Council. I believe the Home Office has just given approval for the first 20-mile-an-hour speed enforcement cameras. And coming from County Council, we use ANPR for congestion management. But I'm led to believe that ANPR cameras can only be used for one purpose. Is it not an idea to get ANPR cameras to be used for dual purposes? Would this not be a better use of public money? Because the data for congestion monitoring is extremely useful for us as a county council, but obviously you could also use those cameras along certain stretches of roads that you wanted to enforce speed-wise.
Quite a sensitive subject, this. Big Brother looms. Every time governments introduce a new system of some kind which is designed to capture personal data, what seems to happen is that either somebody loses a laptop on a train somewhere, or a memory stick gets left in somebody's lunchbox, and suddenly it's on the front page of the Daily Mail. Personally, I find it a rather bizarre situation. I think people are very illogical about this. You can easily illustrate that with the CCTV crime issue. You know, we have these cameras in public places now all over the place, and we walk around and we're video doing it. And when one of them catches an assault on another person or a murder or something, everybody thinks, well, jolly good, don't they? But then every now and again, and indeed, if it turns out there wasn't any film in the camera, it wasn't working, there's then a scandal about, you know, how disgraceful it is that it wasn't working, and yet you get exactly the same technology pilloried in the press because it's spying on us all the time, and we have no civil liberties left. Well, I think, you know, people are just not necessarily terribly logical about this. You know, they have both concerns. They would like to be more secure, they would like to be safer, but they don't like being spied on. And people can sort of flip over from one mentality to the other very, very quickly. And that essentially is the reason why a lot of safeguards are put in place about the use of systems, that people have to say, well, the reason I'm putting this system in is to stop people speeding, or the reason I'm putting this system in is to monitor potential security incidents, and you can't then use the data for umpteen other purposes, however interesting that might be. Maybe society will evolve to a position where people are less worried about this, but at the moment it's still quite a serious issue. David, you would know that from your time in politics.
I think there's a difference between, let's say, ANPR cameras. Those cameras that are there to, let's say, check on the 20-mile-an-hour zone. What those cameras are doing is gathering evidence of people are non-compliant, and that's good. And there's a widespread support for that. For congestion monitoring, you know, if you were taking the whole of number plates and it was possible to store that information, and it was possible for local or national government to use it or lose it, then I think people would be justifiably very concerned. I mean, you'll know that the Highways Agency and many local authorities do congestion monitoring by taking part number plates where you can't actually determine which car is which. I think that's fine. I don't think any people have any problem with it whatsoever. We had some question, I remember once, people said, what are those cameras? We had one of the newspapers said, and I said, well, it takes part of the number plate. We demonstrate it to them, and everybody was perfectly happy with that because it doesn't actually fix a person to a time and a place on the road, and it protects their privacy. But in terms of protecting the privacy of people who are non-compliant, I don't think we're protecting their privacy at all.
No, and if you want to be spied on, just turn on your mobile phone.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, there's a lot of ignorance about this. Is one of the problems. People don't realise what systems can be used for and how the technology works.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, I can understand the point you're making, and the theory of it sounds fine, because, you know, you're putting more and more cameras up. The cost of that, I mean, we know the cost of these new type approvals are going to be quite large for a long period of time, so it would allow people to do more with less, and the clutter aspects. So there's always conflicting demands for these sorts of things, but I think as the other panellists have made, there is good reasons why that's not currently the case.
Yeah, and I think it's the message of getting the message right, you know, what a particular technology is for.